Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me loud and clear? Let me know if you can hear me, please. Right. Thank you very much for joining. I think I can hear some feedback, which I suspect you can all hear me. Welcome to this webinar. Thank you all for joining. Um, just to set the scene, we are not here today to discuss property. We are not here today. This webinar is not about UK property investment at all. It's about freedom. That's why we are here. We are here to talk about how to achieve financial freedom, time freedom, optionality, and property is just the vehicle to take us to that destination. So I just thought to let you know that in the first instance, because we don't 1.5 hours is not enough to do a deep dive into the UK property. But I'm going to be touching on UK property as a vehicle that will lead us to that destination I believe we all want, is the reason I believe you've all joined this call today. So let's get started. Who am I? My name is BC David. I help immigrant professionals to build optionality, to enable them not to be trapped by the Western system. That's what I do. That's what I'm passionate about. And I believe that's one of the reasons why we are here today is because people on this call want to get this optionality. I believe some of you might have joined this call because you follow me on social media and you've heard my recent conversations around the UK and the Western systems in general being a trap. I've been in the UK for almost 20 years now. I came to the UK 2006, so I've lived there for over 19 years, and I've actively invested in UK property for about 12 years. I started investing in 2012, and yeah, other than that, I have been I've worked across different industries within the UK. I've worked in financial services. I've done financial crimes, KYC, AML. I've done cybersecurity. I've done healthcare, and I'm a geologist. That's what I studied originally. So my position and my experience within the UK system is not. It's I've been here for quite a while and I've experienced the UK in different ramifications. And so when I talk about the system, the way I talk about it today, it is not a hot take. It's based on my lived experience over many years. Also, I consider myself to be a contrarian in terms of my views. I say the truth as I see it. I'm also a disruptor, and I'm sure that's the reason why many of you are here. You've heard about my series, possibly heard about my series on the UK being a trap. And our conversation today is about how to build optionality to walk ourselves around these systemic traps of the UK. So let's get started on that. I'm going to talk a bit about my story. Recently, around January, I came to Nigeria and I was in Nigeria for over 5 weeks. I was able to do this because I have built optionality for myself. I have geographical freedom. I'm able to be where I want to be, when I want to be there without worrying about my bills in the UK. I don't have to worry too much about that because I've built systems over the years. I've built the ability to be able to do what I want when I want. So yes, I can afford to be anywhere I want without my life ending, without worrying about bills. But I didn't start this way. When I started my journey in 2006, this is not the way it was. In fact, in 2009, I had a job. I was driving a Mercedes. I was working as a what you call a CQA engineer, construction quality assurance, supervising construction workers and signing off their work. And then, due to the recession in 2009, I lost my job and everything crashed. Within about 5 weeks, everything basically crashed. And that was my baptism of fire to the UK system. That was when I understood that you can be working in the UK and appear to be fine, appear to be stable, but you are not secure because you can just be 3 paychecks away from everything crashing. Because the UK system is a system that you have to continually participate to survive. Once your income stops, everything can just crash, and your bills don't care, your direct debits don't care about your flow of income or not. You know, direct debits come anyway. You have to pay your rent, you have to pay your bills, regardless of whether you're making you have any income flowing in or not. And this was my experience. Everything crashed for me at the time, and I had to move away from my flat. I moved into a shared apartment, thinking about my life, thinking about how to survive. I was thinking about different survival jobs to take on. I thought, should I take on security, you know, or should I go for healthcare work? And there's nothing wrong with these jobs. It was just the fact that I was coming from somewhere that I thought I was settled. I thought I'd made it, you know. So coming from that place to a place where I was living in a shared house, having nothing, not being able to really pay my bills was a journey from grace to grace for me. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those roles. And then one day I was while I was thinking about these things, a program came up on TV, BBC Umsonga de Hammer, and I saw people buying derelict properties and converting these properties for a profit. And I thought to myself, wow, wait a minute, this is a nice way to make money. Just buy a property and refurbish it and sell on, and that's really easy, I thought to myself. And it was just a mental note I made at the time. And after that time, fast forward to today, my one of my projects was featured on BBC Umsonga de Hammer. It was heard on TV on Wednesday. So but I didn't, you know, there's a lot of ups and downs in my journey. The journey wasn't linear at all. It was riddled with a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks, but we are where we are today. Yeah, so let's move on. Like I said earlier, my experience in 2009 took away my naivety about the UK. It was my introduction to understanding how the system works, that the system doesn't care. It takes from you from end to end. You know, you're paying bills, you're paying, and I'm sure, you know, there's no need to go through this. I'm sure many of you have experienced some of these things. It doesn't care whether it's either you're in the trap or you are walking straight into it. That's the way the UK is. And you have to be intentional in building options for yourself, so that you can just separate yourself, so that you're not in your 50s, you're not in your 60s, wondering how time went, and the fact that you don't own anything. It took me a while to realize that I actually did not own anything, you know. But let's move on. The UK is a beautiful country. It gives a safety net. You have the NHS, you have what I call comfort, but comfort itself can be a trap. For many people, yeah, you move through the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You start from survival, and then from survival you move into safety and security, and then you move into other things until you get to the level where you have self-esteem and self-actualization. And so as you move through this ladder, you know, you get comfortable, and then it gets to a stage you want more. And for many people, they want to break, you know, they want to earn more money, they want to get into C-suite within their organizations and all of that. And then they realize that the system pushes back at them. You know, you get more taxes, you get a lot of pushback. Even if you want to do business, you get a lot of red tape. You get a lot of, you know, legislative pushbacks and all of that. And it's a system that is built for you to continually participate till you drop. You know, it's either one tax or the other, you know, because of it's a system that is funded by credits, and you can't really thrive if you don't, you know, they tell you that you need a credit rating, you need to build your credit score, and then you get this credit card and you're struggling to pay the credit card and all of that. And like I said, for many people, I hold consultation calls with people in their 50s, in their 60s, and they wonder how the time, you know, passed by. Some of these people tell me that BC, nobody gave us a roadmap, nobody told us, nobody gave us a brochure of how to navigate this system. And this is one of the reasons why we're here today, trying to build, again, options for ourselves. I'm going to go through how I broke out. As I said earlier, I watched a BBC show in my lowest moments, and I made a mental note that property could be the vehicle that would lead me to where I want to be. And so we bought our first property. Moving on from there, so yeah, this is just my journey. Let me go through this slide. I arrived in 2006 as a student. 2007, immediately after my master's, I got a contract job. And then 2009, the economic recession hit. I lost my job. I've talked about that earlier. I don't need to go through that again. And then around 2010, 11 was a recovery phase for me. I was able to get back into the industry. In 2012, we bought our first home, which we had to sell within about a year. And then in 2013, we bought another property, another residential property. And 2014, we bought our first investment property. And then 2016, I left my paid employment for full-time property. So I left 9 to 5. I started property full-time. And in 2020, my business was hit. We had a bit of shaking because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And 2025, one of my projects was featured on BBC Under the Hammer. And then we are where we are today. I'm going to be touching on some of these bits in more detail as we proceed. So why property? Property is a vehicle that I consider can lead you to a place where you have freedom and choice. Freedom is not necessarily you leaving your 9 to 5. Freedom is not necessarily about you leaving your paid employment. It's a position where you can afford to take a pause. It's a position where stopping your 9 to 5 or your paid employment does not cause your life to crash. That's how I define freedom. Choice is the ability to do what you want to do when you want to do it. As I speak, I'm not in the UK, I'm in Nigeria again, and I'm able to do this because of property, basically. So you get to have geographical options, can be anywhere you want to be because your living expenses are covered. Why property again? Property, amongst many investment vehicles, is one of the vehicles where you can basically buy a property, set it up properly, have the right structures in place, and then go to sleep. And then you have a tenant paying your rent, and you get cash flow as well from it and capital appreciation. Unlike other investment vehicles, property is the only vehicle that I believe you can leverage on. So when you want to, what do I mean by that? So you want to buy, you buy a property worth, let's say £100,000. All you have to drop is a percentage of that value, and you get a lender, a bank in this case, to lend you 75% or 80% or even up to 90% of the asset value. So that's leverage. And then you are the person, you the owner of the property, are able to control that asset. Any capital appreciation, any growth that asset achieves, you get all of that as well. You don't get that with many other investment vehicles. Property again in the UK. The UK is a small island, and there's a property crisis. Population keeps growing, and people always need a place to stay, regardless of whether there's an economic downturn or there's a recession or there's a war. People will always need a place to stay. So that's why property, I mean, in the UK especially, serves as this vehicle. And values of properties always go up. I'm going to be sharing with you some details of this. You're going to see real numbers to demonstrate that how property performs over the years. Now I'm going to go into a few of the property strategies that are available in the UK. You have the conventional, you have the vanilla buy-to-let. Basically, this is just you buying a property you can buy with a mortgage, or you can buy unencumbered, and then you let it out to a family. They pay you rent on a monthly basis, and then you pay the mortgage if you bought with a mortgage, and you also get cash flow. But this strategy is the easiest, is the simplest, is the one with the lowest barrier to enter. However, you still need to know what you're doing. A lot of people that say property doesn't work because they are what I call accidental landlords. They don't know about the legislation. They don't know what they are doing. They buy in the wrong location and they lose a lot of money. I move on to the next one. Is HMO, that's house of multiple occupation. This is basically you buy a property and you rent it out by the room. The tenants share facilities such as the living area, the kitchen. Sometimes they share bathrooms as well. So this is a strategy that is very good for cash flow, but it has a lot of regulations around it. You need to get your license, HMO license. Sometimes you need planning permission, etc., etc. You have the BRRR strategy. That's buy, refurb, rent, and refinance. So basically, you buy a property, you renovate it, you rent it out, and you refinance. So basically, this is a high-level strategy. It's not for novices, it's for experienced people. You need to know what you're doing. You're buying a property below market value, and you're adding value to the property, either by extending it, by renovating it, changing the toilet, changing the kitchen, going into the loft sometimes. Basically add value to the property, and then you remortgage the property with a lender based on the new value, and that's how that strategy works. That's the strategy we have used to build our portfolio of properties. Like I said, it's not for novices, but it's what I call rinse and repeat. You buy one, you get your funds out of it, and then you move on to the next, and you do that again and again and again. So you have many properties to fund your lifestyle. Flips is a buy to sell. You buy a property, you renovate, and then you sell on for a profit. That's what flips are. You have serviced accommodation. This isn't really a property strategy. It's more, it leans towards hospitality more, because you're renting out to people on a nightly rate. They pay by the day, and they expect a lot of customer service and all of that. I've talked about this in some of my videos that I've posted on social media, but it's a very good strategy. It's you get a lot of cash flow from it as well. You have rent to rent. Basically, what this means is you rent a property and then you sublet it to as an HMO, as a single let, or as serviced accommodation. That's what rent to rent is. Again, this is not really a property strategy because you don't own it. You are just controlling the asset, and you don't have control, as it were. The landlord can chuck you out if he wants. Deal sourcing is basically, it's the same as deal packaging. You source a deal, and then you sell it on to property investors. All right, we move on to the next. Now, I've been talking about property for a bit, but this isn't, like I said earlier, not about property. This is about freedom. So for everybody, we all have what I call freedom numbers. What is your freedom number? Your freedom number is the figure that you get in property income that enables you to stop working if you want. So basically what it is, it's not a how do you get your freedom number? Your freedom number is a cumulative addition of all of your expenses, your real expenses, not your lifestyle expenses. I'm not talking about holiday. I'm not talking about your car finance and things like that. I'm talking about your essential bills, your rent, your utility bills, your feeding, the essentials. You had everything together. For some people, it's £3,000 a month. For some people, it's £2,000. Whatever your freedom figure is, you then look at how many properties can get me to this destination. So if your freedom figure is £2,000, for example, maybe one single HMO can get you to that figure. If it's £2,000, maybe you need 4 single lets that are netting £500 per calendar month in your cash flow after paying all your expenses. So that is what, the freedom figure for everybody is different. And that's why the strategy, the vehicle, how you position yourself, the strategy you use will be different depending on your individual destination. So I want you to think about this. What is your freedom figure? As I said, it's not about your lifestyle habits. It's not about holidays. It's not about, those other things. You can build up to that later on, but we have to start from somewhere, which is your bills that are essential, the ones that you must pay. And then we'll walk backwards from there to define the strategy or how many properties you need to take you to that destination. As I said, property is not a linear journey. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not I'm going to start today and I want to make millions next year. It is taking me a lot of years, a lot of mistakes, a lot of setbacks to get there. But the reason why we're having this call is that you don't have to go through those setbacks. You don't have to make the mistakes that I made, make the losses that I made. Because I have made them, you can leverage, on someone that knows the road, as they say. Where should I invest? This is a question that a lot of people ask. What location? Should I just go on Rightmove and search for properties? Where do I start from? I would say you start with areas with stable demand. My rule of thumb is you look for cities that are thriving, not dead cities. This is not just about finding the cheapest property available and then buying it. No. You want to look at growth corridors. You want to look at areas with hospitals, universities, areas that have big employers. These are areas where people must live. Not just a nice area that you think people want to live. It's an area people must live because people work in that area. There are hospitals in that area, NHS hospitals, where you have accident and emergencies. They service a lot of employees that serve that hospital. You have electricians working there, you have doctors, you have nurses, you have healthcare workers. Your property will always have that demand if you buy in such areas. Same as universities, same as big employers. You don't want to go to a dead town where maybe there's an old coal mine and people don't want to live there. Most of the people that live there are on benefits and all of that. You don't want to invest in such areas. So I've talked about growth corridors. There are tools and ways to find out this sort of locations, regeneration zones, areas where the government is investing. That's the area you want to invest. And like I said, there are ways to identify these areas. You want to invest for cash flow. Capital appreciation is good, but it's not something you can control. It's driven by a lot of bigger factors, economics and things like that. But cash flow is always king. Cash flow is what, I talked about the freedom number earlier on. Your cash flow is what takes you there. That monthly recurrent income is what takes you there, as opposed to just going for hype. It's also important to think, like an investor, everything here depends on your mindset, how you see a property. What are you looking at? Are you just looking at the glossy kitchen, the fine bathroom? Are you looking at the curb appeal? Or are you looking at numbers? Because it's a game of numbers. I also talk about having a patch, or what I call a gold mine area. You want to select a location that like the back of your palm, not just going for the hype. Everybody says you need to invest up north and then you go up north. No, you want to be in a place where you can easily access. Let's say, for example, you choose Liverpool as your area, as your gold mine area. Over time, you get to know Liverpool very well. You know the dynamics, the street dynamics, the areas to invest in. Then you start to build your network there as well. The letting agents, the estate agents there, they know you very well. They know you're an investor in the area. They know you also build your trades as well. Your plumber, electrician, your gas engineer. You build that network in a place. But compare that to having a scattergun approach. You buy in Liverpool and then you go up north to Newcastle, and then you buy another flat in Glasgow, and then you buy in Kent. That really doesn't make sense because you're going to spread yourself out too thin. You're going to be dealing with different teams in all those locations, which makes the journey more of a challenge for you. So it's important to have a gold mine area as opposed to having a scattergun approach to investing. Right, let's move on. So I'm just going to share with you some numbers here. These are some of my own numbers from my portfolio. To the left of the screen, I don't know if you can see very clearly, these are the invoices that I raised in 2020 for some of our serviced accommodation units. That's what people generally call Airbnb. You can see the figure here, this £109,000. This is not figures coming from booking.com or from our online travel agencies or Airbnb or TripAdvisor or what have you. These are direct, the ones that bookings that are direct to us, the ones that we raise the invoices directly for, and they pay directly into our account. So this is just to show you the numbers. This is not to just show you for the sake of it. You can see 2019 as well, £104,000 just from invoices. All right, let's go to the capital appreciation side of things. I've just shared two properties here. I call this one What House. It's a property up north. I bought this one for £59,000 in 2016, and the picture below, the screenshot below, is a mortgage offer we got in 2024 from Foundation Home Loans. You can see my name there. This property is in Hull, and it was revalued at £145,000. So when I say that, and this is the magic in property, you buy and then you wait, but you have to buy in the right location. This is a property that has doubled in value between 2016 and 2024. So we've been able to remortgage this house. We've taken all of our cash out of it, and it's still generating cash flow for us. Another property here in Basildon, I bought this one on auction, again 2016, for £166,000. It was revalued in 2024 for £275,000. This particular property, I converted it to an HMO, and after the conversion, I then refinanced again. The last time the valuation was done, that was last year. I couldn't get the screenshot for that one. It was revalued at £340,000. So again, all of my cash, all of my original investment is out of this, and this property is generating a gross income of £4,150 per calendar month before bills today. So property works. It definitely does, if you know what you're doing, if you do it right. This, again, is not just a straightforward journey. I've shared before how I've made mistakes in property, how our first property purchase in 2012, we lost £10,000 on it because we didn't know what we were doing, because we went for the curb appeal. The house looked nice, it looked beautiful, and we just went for it. We overpaid without doing our numbers, without doing our research on the area. And after living there for about 6 months, we decided that it wasn't for us, and we had to sell. And when we sold for about £10,000 lesser than we paid for it. Why? Because that's the real value on the market. A property is only worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. And so that's why I said, you need to know at the time we're buying these ones I'm sharing with you on the screen. I already knew what I was doing. I knew how to go about it the right way. Okay, we move on from there. This is another case study for one of our HMOs. This is the one that was featured on the BBC program. We bought this for £266,000. Additional buying cost and stamp duty, land charge, we paid about £20,000 for that. Refurbished for about £70,000. This is not the average figure that you use to do this kind of conversion, but again, I know how to save my own cost. I know where to buy materials and all of that. I carefully select my builders. We go through a robust vendor selection process. That's why we could do this for this figure. And then the property was revalued. For those of you that watched the BBC show, was actually valued by an estate agent at £550,000. It was valued by our lender for 510, but we decided to go for this figure because we don't want to be over leveraged on this property. We don't want to borrow too much for personal reasons. So based on these figures, we had an uplift of about £54,000. The mortgage payments per calendar month is 1,005. This property has 5 rooms, so the gross rent is about 4,150. It's in a good location, so we've not really had any voids since we let this out. So we get a cash flow of about £2,000 per calendar month. I put a range there between 1.4 to 2.1 because I'm accounting for voids. Because sometimes you have people moving out, people moving in, and you have to re-advertise and all of that. That's why I put that margin. But think about this for a second. Having net positive cash flow after all bills, utility bills and all of that, of about £2,000 per month. And think again about that freedom number that I talked about earlier. How much do you need to be free? Does one HMO do the job? Does two HMOs do the job? For extras? This is how to think about these things. All right, let's move on. This is the floor plan of this same property. Original floor plan. It was a 3-bed semi-detached property originally, and you can see the floor plan on the left. Had a lounge, kitchen, dining area, and the 3 bedrooms on the first floor. And because I know how to do this, I was able to recreate this and get 5 rooms out of it. 5 rooms that meet compliance requirements, that meet amenity standards that is set by the council. And you can see the after floor plan on the right. So you have 2 bedrooms downstairs, and all of them en suite. Because we find that in our area, this is the kind of properties that has a lot of demand. People want to have their privacy and have their own bathrooms, and yeah. When for novices that don't know about this, when they see this property, they cannot imagine how you can get 5 rooms out of it. But that's what happens when you know what you're doing. And these are some of the pictures. That's the original bathroom on the left. And you can see the new bathroom on the right, bathroom for one of the rooms. So let me call it shower room. And these are some of the demolition pictures and refurb pictures on the left, and the finished product on the right. Right. Success. It's not a walk in the park. It's not for people that just binge watch YouTube videos and just wish for it. You have to be a doer. You have to really want it. You need to have a strong why. And there's this story I talk about a wise man who has answers to all of life's questions. He's able to, any question you throw at him, he's able to answer you. And he lived in a little village, and so some young men in that village wanted to unravel, to prove that this man doesn't have answers to all of life's questions. So they invited the man to the square of the village. They invited other people as well to make a public spectacle of this man. One of the young men held a butterfly in his hand, and he asked this old man, this wise man, he said, "Wise man, in your infinite wisdom, tell me, this butterfly in my hands, is it dead or alive?" And the man said to him, he responded, okay, before he responded, the trick is holding a live butterfly in your hands. If the man said the butterfly was dead, he would have just released the butterfly to fly away and say, "See, you are wrong, the butterfly is alive." If the man had said the butterfly was alive, he would just have crushed it dead in his hands. So the man responded, he said, "The butterfly is in your hands. Whether dead or alive, it is in your hands." So what does this mean? What's this story telling us? It's telling us that serendipity happens, time and chance happens, but our life is in our hands. We make our own luck. It's entirely up to us. It's how much we want it. I know, just like many of us, we came to this country, the UK, with dreams and aspirations. And Sometimes because of the different laws, different changes and all of that, people are wondering, is this even the right thing for me? But even though the UK is a trap, there are ways to circumnavigate or circumvent around this trap. But we have to be strategic doers in order to do this. A lot of people procrastinate. A lot of people have gone for different courses, but the difference is in taking action, and in one thing it's enough. Two people can learn the same thing, and one will just make excuses and say, oh, I can't do it. It doesn't work, it's a lie. Oh, there's a lot of legislation, they're coming with the renters' rights law by May, and another person finds ways around it and goes ahead to make his own luck. So think about that for a bit. I've lost money in property. I talked about my loss of about £10,000 from the first property purchase we made. And I went on to get education to learn about how to do things right. We bought our second property. We sold the first one, we bought another one, and we bought in a better location and all of that. And the property grew by about £120,000 in the space of 2 years. That money was the seed fund for our property portfolio. That was the money that I used to start investing. How? Because I bought right. I bought in the right location. I talk to people about these things. I made a video recently talking about why I would never buy a brand new property. And a lot of people come back to say, what do you mean? We buy what we love, But buying a property in the UK, it's always about the numbers. It's not an emotional. I know buying your home is an emotional purchase because you want to have a place you love. But it's also a home is the biggest financial investment that you would make in the UK in your journey here, if you elect to buy a home. So you want to get it right. You're borrowing money to fund your purchase. So you don't want to overpay for a property. You don't want to buy and have negative equity from day one. And I've shown you here what property has done for me, how buying right has created the investment funds for us to build a property portfolio, which has enabled me to be where I want to be. As I said, I'm in Nigeria as we speak. I can be here for as long as I want. And that's what property has done for me. But you don't have to make the mistakes that I've made. You don't have to lose money. You don't have to. And it's just not about financial loss. It's also about time loss as well. The loss of confidence as well, as you go along on this journey. I tried to do property myself. I made lots of mistakes. There are lots of other losses that I made. I have paid sourcers money for sourcing property for me on Rightmove. Rightmove, I'm sure many of you know Rightmove. It's an open source where people list properties. So this sourcer found a property for me on Rightmove, and I paid him for finding that. Why? Because I was naive. I didn't know what I was doing. I spoke to a friend who has recently signed up to our mentorship program a few weeks ago. He paid a sourcer as well to source a property for him. He paid £4,000. They told him that they were going to do everything for him, find a property, get it tenanted and all of that. 1 month in to the tenancy, the tenant stopped paying. Again, this is not something you can straight away just outsource and say, I'm going to pay somebody to do it for me. You need to learn how to do it properly. And the time my journey, my story changed was when I found myself a mentor, or call him an accountability partner, that has walked the path before. Someone that's made some of the mistakes so that I don't have to make those mistakes. And he was able to show me the way, handhold me, and guide me through, having what I call guided execution. So, I'm telling you today that you don't have to make those mistakes to get to that destination. I've earned my stripes in this journey, and you get to inherit my gains without paying the price that I paid. The price and value of mentorship is what delivers you from a journey of, moving with snail speed, moving with pain, wondering whether it's going to work, to moving with clarity, knowing, moving with confidence, setting yourself up for success. And I know a lot of people I hold consultations with people. I get a lot of DMs as well, people asking for free advice. They want to buy a property and they're sending me the link to the property. Oh, can we buy this? Should I buy a flat? Should I buy a house? Should I do this? Should I do that? What you get from that is lots of mistakes, lots of movements at a snail speed. Eventually, you will pay that price, whether in the loss that you incur from doing it wrong, and in buying the wrong property or doing it the wrong way, or being an accidental landlord and losing thousands of money from a tenant that doesn't pay your rent, or getting fines because you've missed out on something that you should have done. So I'm inviting you to join my mentorship program, which we have our next cohort starting on the 16th of May. The spaces are limited. What does this give to you? It helps you from moving from where you are today to a place where you have freedom and choice. And as you've seen my own journey from that dingy room in 2009, when I was wondering what my life would be like, how do I move from this space to a place where I have a lot of control. That is my why, that my own personal why. When I say why is the reason you do what you do. My own personal why is because I want freedom. I don't want my life to depend on, what a boss or a line manager says to me. And that's what property did for me. So if you don't want to work till you drop, if you don't want to continue to live from paycheck to paycheck, if you don't want just a singular policy change to cause you to lose your stability. And this is what happens in the UK. They just change a policy today, they change the policy tomorrow, and that just basically changes everything. If you don't want that, and you want to consider property as a vehicle to lead you to that optionality, please join the mentorship program. As I said, many people, I was in Nigeria a couple of months ago, and I'm still in Nigeria now. And the reason why a lot of people can't do that, even though they want to do it, they want to be able to shuttle between countries and be where they want to be, is because they can't afford to leave that job. They can't afford to. So if that's the life you envision for yourself, a life of freedom and choice, you're welcome to join my mentorship program. What we teach you, we handhold you on how to secure your first deal. We help you to tailor your strategy that is best for you, for your own peculiar situation, that will take you to where you want to be. So we don't teach everybody everything. We teach you the exact thing you need that will take you to where you want to go. And you get to understand the strategies that I used in securing properties that's landed me in that on that BBC show. I'm going to end here, and I want to leave this the remaining time. We're still good for time. We have about 40 minutes. I know many of you, or some of you, might have burning questions to find out whether this is actually for you or not. I'll give you time to do that. If you're interested in the mentorship program, we're going to share the link to join, to book a discovery call with myself to understand whether it's actually for you, because we don't take everybody that wants to join. We have to be sure that it's for you, and we can work together. So we'll have a discovery call, and then that takes you to the application process. So I'm going to stop here and give you time to ask whatever questions you have for me.
All right, if you have questions, please drop it in the chat. We'll read out your questions for you. That's the fastest way. I can go through and allow those raising their hands to ask their questions, but the fastest way to get to us, drop it in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Shell. I'm going to allow people to drop their questions, and I'm going to be reading through them and providing answers. I believe that we are sharing this a recording of this session on our YouTube, so feel free to subscribe.
So Ezeuloibe is asking a question: can someone living outside the UK benefit from property investment in the UK? What about management of the properties? So the person is, I guess, outside the UK.
Okay, thank you, Shell. Yes, someone that is living outside of the UK can benefit from investing in the UK. However, to invest in UK property, many people need a mortgage in order to buy. Mortgage is basically you need to borrow money from a financial institution to make the purchase. So you are limited if you're not residing in the UK or you don't have an income in the UK. The type of mortgage you get can be limiting. However, there are banks that are able to serve that need. We have some Nigerian banks, and I don't know if you're joining from you're based in Nigeria. You have some Nigerian banks that can lend you, but their lending criteria is different from general UK high street banks. So yes, but if you have the funds to buy unencumbered, yes, very, very possible to do that. In terms of how you manage it, you get a letting agent to manage it for you. You get someone to do it for you basically, and then remit the income to you. So yes, it's possible. I have a question here from Obasi Okori. What does the mentorship program entail? What does it require? Coming to the UK and not having the bulk sum to start investing is the challenge. Saving up the equity to use as startup from monthly salary after expenses is tough. And I will not be able to engage with the mentorship in May, but after May, I'm free. I don't get the question.
I think what he's saying is getting the funds and bulk to invest may be difficult for him, but he wants to be available to join the mentorship, but not the make what. He plans to join later. So what do you advise him to do?
The details of the mentorship program is available on our website. We've provided enough detail on it. I'm not one of those mentors that tell people that they don't need money to invest in property. You need money. There are ways around it. If you don't have money, you can go for some strategies like rent to rent. You can basically, rent a property from a landlord and then you sublet it, and then you get cash flow. Nigeria, you get cash flow from that to then build up, to then buy your home property. But even rent to rent, it requires a capital outlay for you to start. There's also deal sourcing, but these are very, very technical strategies that you still need money to, get flyers, to do marketing. You have to do, deal sourcing is basically getting direct to vendor deals, getting motivated sellers, people that are motivated to sell. You have people like people going through a divorce and they want to sell their property, so they are eager to sell quickly. You have probate sales, people that have just lost, the owner of the property has just passed on and they want to quickly sell, or people going through a financial difficulty. So you can do targeted marketing to those people for you to be able to, get leads from them, and then you package the deals and you sell on to investors. That's another way, but it's not as simple as I've said. You might have to drop, say, up to 10,000 flyers to your niche area, to your gold mine area, for you to even get a few leads. So you need money to do property. But feel free to book a discovery call with us and we can go through some of these details to assess where you are and see whether the program is for you. Obasi Okori. Please, how did you raise the initial sum for your first property investment? That was covered on the call. So to buy our first property. So when you say property investment, that's different from a residential property. So we bought our residential property first. Of basically, we saved up money between myself and my wife. We saved up 10%. We bought our first property. We lost money from that, but then we did some creative savings as well. I'm not happy to discuss that on this call, but we're able to save up again using some creative strategies to buy our next property, which grew in value over a very short period of time. I talked about that earlier. Within 2 years, we got up to 125,000 uplift, which we then used to start. We refinanced, we remortgaged the property, which means additional borrowing, which means your mortgage will go higher, but we didn't spend the money on cars or for lifestyle habits. We used it to buy properties. So a lot of people are sitting on cash in their they have homes that have lots of equity, but equity has no meaning if you don't put it to good use. So I think that answers that question. That's how we raised money, basically. Do you have a similar program for those that want to do this in Nigeria? So because my experience is based on the UK property market, I've had people wanting to join our mentorship. They're based in Canada, and I've had to decline them because I don't know how property market works in Canada. There are a lot of similarities, but I don't know how it works. I can't teach you what I don't know. So this is based in the UK, unfortunately.
So the next question is, any tip on getting on property without mortgage?
If you want to buy a property without a mortgage, you have to buy it unencumbered. You have to buy it with cash. So unless you have ways of getting lots of money to then buy, you have to fund the purchase one way or the other. I guess a lot of people, the mortgage thing scares them. They think that they are tied for so many years, but this is about mindset, and this is one of the things we cover in our mentorship. We do a lot of things on mindset, because once you have a good understanding and your mindset shifts and the way you think about these things changes, it changes a lot of things for you. So I've seen lots of content creators saying really negative things about mortgage. It depends on how you use it. You can use it as leverage. When people say that you are tied for 25 years on a mortgage, no, you're not. You can sell the house, you can sell the property and walk away with your cash. So you're not tied. Nobody will force you that you must pay for the entire term of the mortgage. So, but again, it's about education and knowing how to go about things and understanding how this thing works. It's good you're part of our community. Yes, I was going to mention as well, for many migrants that have another place that they call home, that want to explore maybe returning to their home countries at a later date, or having that option to do it. And this is what I teach: optionality. You don't know what you will need in future. A lot of people have said, oh, they're not going back to their home countries, they are in the UK forever. You don't know, your needs might change. And what I teach is optionality. If you change your mind, the option to be able to build your life anywhere else. So, and that's what we have as migrants. People that are native breeds or Native American that live in their country, they don't have anywhere else to go. We do. So I think that's an advantage that we have. Kuro Udumba, it's good you are part of our community. That means you can relate with most of our story. How can you go from just getting a new mortgage and monthly bills on a cash salary and navigate into property? I can't really answer this question in detail here, because we'll have to go through a number of things. What's your income? What's your expenses? Because when you say care salary can be anything. Not all carers earn the same thing. So it depends on where are you living at the moment, What are your bills like? Are there some financial holes in your house goings that you need to plug to be able to save money more? Is there a way you can build your credit profile to enable you to raise some money in some creative ways? I talked about creativity in raising funds earlier, but we'll have to delve into this in detail, and you might want to book a consultation with me to discuss this.
Next
Tam,
question is how
okay.
can how can I generate money for the renovation? That's the first question. Then are there lenders that work with people for this type of projects?
Yes, there are. How can you generate money for the renovation? There are lenders, specialist lenders that would lend you not just money to buy the property, but they also do development finance. Their criteria is different. You still need to have some cash. And how do you get cash? Sometimes we overcomplicate these things. Funds can be raised from. I raise JV finance from friends that know what I do. I raise it from family. For a lot of people have cash. You just need to go into your network and think about the people that you know. If you present to them what you want to do and you show them the numbers and you have integrity, they know that you're going to return on exit of the deal, you're going to return their money with a profit. What is the interest rate in the UK? It's for savings accounts, maybe 1 point something percent, and inflation rate is even more than that. So many people that have their monies in savings accounts, their money is being eroded by inflation anyway. So if you know how to network and build your networking skills, you would have people that want to come together, to do this together. People can form a JV, build, form an SPV, special purpose vehicle, create a company, and do this thing together. People that are aspiring for the same thing. So there are different ways around this thing. Can this be done on a skilled worker visa? Yes, it can be done on a skilled worker visa. It can be done 100%. We started investing in property when I had what you call the highly skilled migrant program, which is an equivalent of the skilled worker visa today. And there's no issue with that at all. How can you generate money for the renovation? Yes, I've answered that. Bolanwo Dukoya, can you go into property investment if there are restrictions on your visa? Like, yes, you can. The kind of restriction you have does not stop you from investing in property, in buying property. No, it doesn't. How much is the mentorship? We have two tiers. We have the tier one, we have tier two. Tier one is mainly education focused, people that are not ready to move. They want to learn how to do it, but they don't have the funds to maybe start investing yet. And they don't just want to sit around. That's what tier one is for. So it's classroom based. We teach you the structures, how to buy, where to look, different strategies. We go into a deep dive because I talk about these things. I showed you the numbers, but it's not that straightforward. There are lots of things to learn. There are lots of how to avoid big, massive mistakes that we go into. That's tier one. Tier two is more detailed. That one you're going to be having one-to-one with me on a weekly basis. We go through, because many people don't struggle with the learning part of things. They can go on ChatGPT to learn, but the difference is how to execute from what you've learned to actually acting. How to make that right offer, how to avoid the pitfalls, because there are lots of blind spots in property. So tier two takes you through that. We are giving lots of value. I mean, you can look into the details of what we provide, but we're doing this because there's an element of this for me, which is in helping people. I know that sounds cliche, but it is what it is. I have been in this system for so long, and I've seen what it can do to you and what it has done to people, to many families. And a part of my purpose is to help people see first how they can, and that's why I did the series on the UK is a trap. I've got lots of insults. I've got lots of people that are on survival level that have just escaped, and they think they're in their El Dorado. And over time, they will realize these things. How do I leverage my residential property to leverage into property investment? Yes, I think I've covered that as well. You need to speak to your lender if you're on a mortgage and see if you can do additional borrowing on the property. You need to have significant equity in the property to be able to do that. But they would do a desktop valuation of your property, and they would assess whether you can borrow money from it. Your property can also be used as leverage to secure what's it called? To secure finance, what's it called? Bridging loan. Yes, you can use your property as security. Again, it's not something that I would generally advise. It's a risky venture. So you need to be sure that you get it right, because your house is on the line, basically. Your residential property is on the line if you use it as security to raise a loan. So you need to be sure that there's a clear exit from the deal that you want to do, and you need to get that right. So those are the ways you can leverage your residential property, either by doing additional borrowing with your existing lender, or by using your property as security. So the lender will put a charge on your property, and if you don't return their money within the period of time agreed, they can take your property. As I said, I'm not selling dreams here. I don't tell people what they want to hear. I tell them the truth, because my reputation matters a lot to me, and I don't want to destroy people's lives as well, just for profit. Just out of curiosity, how did your second property appreciate so fast in just 2 years? Well, it did. Don't know. We bought in an area where a massive infrastructure came to. It's called the Crossrail, what is now known as Elizabeth Line in London. If you live in London, a lot of you may know about the Elizabeth Line. So a station, one of the stations was very close to where we bought, and that changed. It changed things. It's just what it is. So the bank, we went to our lender, Halifax, and we asked them what's the desktop valuation, and they gave us the figure at the time, and that's just what it was. Any advice on auction properties? I'm in the process of viewing and bidding for one, and to convert to HMO. Please, can you provide mentoring for this? Yes, feel free to book a discovery call or join our mentorship program. We can go through this. Auction is a big kettle of fish. It is. I have not really shared this before, but I lost up to about 16,000 on an auction purchase. Because auction is, you need to be sure you know what you're doing, please, before you go for that auction. Read the legal pack, share the legal pack with a solicitor, read the special conditions of sale, read the general conditions of sale, make sure you have your funds secured, make sure you view the property, check for subsidence, check for structural issues, because there's a reason why people sell on auction. They sell because they might have explored the traditional markets and they are not able to sell, and they might be hiding something. I've seen people, I've visited properties that to the native person, to your naked eyes, you wouldn't be able to see these things because they've disguised it so much. You have, joists that are collapsing, rotting, and all of that, and they will disguise all these things, and you would think that you're getting this property for cheap. So please, don't go blind into an auction, and don't get there and get into a bidding war. Have a figure in mind if you still want to go ahead, and don't go past that figure. Do your numbers. Don't get emotional, because that can happen. I've bought up to 6 properties on auction, and I know how that works, how you're emotional, because you're trying to win. You want to win the bid. So don't do that, please. That would be my advice to you, Olatunji. Oluyemi Elegbede, what's the minimum amount you suggest as starting capital to start buying property? I get this question a lot. I would say, just to respond to the question, my typical answer is it depends. minimum amount in Peterborough is different from minimum amount in Hull, is different from minimum amount in London. So it depends. It's like asking how long is a piece of string, but I would say 30 grand for starters. You can do 20 in some locations, but it depends on a number of things. How you're buying, your buying structure. Are you buying using limited company, or are you buying in your own name? That's also affects a number of things, because it would affect stamp duty, the other buying costs that you need to pay. Obasi Okori, please, how can I book in for the discovery call? It's not on the mentorship link. So if you go through the mentorship link and you go, you read through it to the very bottom, there's an option where you can book a discovery call with me. But the spaces for the discovery call are so limited. We're planning to open up more spaces because of people that are interested. Currently, it's just Thursdays and Fridays I do those discovery calls. But yeah, we're going to open more spaces for that. Thank you, Abiola ROK. Thank you for your social media post and putting us all in the perspective of how we view Nigeria. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Otaz, I'm planning to buy properties. Which one is better to start with, buy to let or residential? I'm a first time buyer. I live in a council house. Okay. This is a very popular question as well. What should I buy first, a residential or investment property? Both of them has advantages and disadvantages. As a first time buyer, when you buy your residential property first, you have a lot of incentives. You don't pay stamp duty up to a threshold, so you're able to save on that. A lot of lenders also look at you favorably in terms of the rates you get, interest rates you get. You also are able to buy a property with dropping just 10% as equity, and the bank can lend you up to 90%. For investment property, the dynamics are different. You pay stamp duty for, as low as, I can't remember the figure now. You pay stamp duty as opposed to when you're buying your first residential property. You also you also have to drop, most lenders, you have to drop up to 25% deposit to buy an investment property. But there are advantages and disadvantages. So what's the answer? It depends on your own situation, your goals and everything. So I can't just answer. I would just tell you that there are advantages and disadvantages. So it depends on your own circumstance. But I do consultation calls with people to discuss these things. We run through their numbers and they move away with clarity on which one to go for. So if you want us to do that, feel free to book a consultation, property consultation call. Ezuilo Ibe. Sorry if I'm murdering your name. Apologies. If someone cash buy the first property since no UK residency, can that be used to scale up? That is, get financing from back to acquire more properties. If you buy your first property with cash, can you refinance? Yes, you can refinance. So if your first property is unencumbered, you can basically walk into a bank, and that's the way the BRRR process works. The buy, refurb, rent, and refinance works. You buy cash. Many times you use bridging loan to buy. You get JV finance to buy, and after buying the property, you renovate, and then you refinance. You rent it out to demonstrate that you can get income from it, and then you refinance. Refinancing means you go to a lender and you tell them, value this property. They send a valuer in, a surveyor, to assess the value of the property, and they will lend you 75% of the value of the property, and then you will retain an equity of 25% there. And that's how you can then take the 75% to reinvest. For the BRRR strategy, it covers the cost of purchase and it covers your renovation cost, so you can move on to another property, and on like that. It's It's actually a fantastic way. But yeah, to answer your question, Tuji Badamosi, what's your advice for those of us who don't have the capital to start investments? Is it advisable to get a residential mortgage, then put off after some years? Yes, you can do that. But you have to treat the residential mortgage, you have to wear your investment hat when you're thinking about it. Don't get carried away by just buying a property. Oh, we love that house, it's beautiful, you know. Don't make that mistake. I'm not saying don't buy a property that is beautiful. It needs to serve your needs, but don't overpay. And buy in a good area, buy in an area people want to live, to enable, you know, that cash, the capital appreciation to happen for you, and then you can also save money as you go along. But for investment, and you can decide that you can turn that property into a cash flow generating asset for yourself. And there are ways around this. You don't have to. For many people, their barrier is not money. The barrier is the mindset. Yes, you need money, but there are creative ways of raising that money, like I said earlier. So it's in the mindset, you know. So you might want to reconsider and think about it, because many people have heard 30K and they're thinking, oh no, that is far off. It's not like it's far off if you know how to, you know, go about it, I would say. BB, I have 100K in savings. BB, you are rich, oh. I want to invest in property, but I'm not confident to take the move. Join our mentorship. That's the right thing to do. You're ready to invest. You don't have the confidence. You walk away from that mentorship program with the confidence you need, the education you need, and to move forward. Yeah. Because your money is not doing anything for you in savings. In fact, the real value of that cash is going down by the year because it's been eroded by inflation. Frank Osawaru. I reside in the UK and I work in the Middle East. I want to get on the investment property ladder. How accessible is mortgage available to me? I don't know how lenders assess the lenders. It's lender specific, so it depends on the lender. I'm sure it's just they need to be able to demonstrate that you have income. For residential property, it's more difficult to get into, because they have to assess your income, your ability to pay the mortgage, your affordability. They assess your other expenses and all of that. But for investment property, it's different. The lending criteria is different, because they are looking at the income generating potential of that property. So you need to speak to a lender to find out. I don't know the criteria or how banks, because it's about risk management for the lender. At the end of the day, they want to assess whether you're able to fund the mortgage. So I would advise you speak to a broker, Frank. Tunji Badamosi, explain that again. Explain what again? Are you referring to those that don't have the capital to start investment? Is it advisable to get residential mortgage and put off? Yeah, I think I've covered that, Tunji. Can you get a buy-to-let mortgage on a 40K property? Interesting question. Yes, you can. A lot of lenders will not consider it because the amount of money is so low. But yes, you can. A lot of lenders will consider it as well. Chris, absolutely agree. Money savings in the UK does not do anything for you. Yes, thank you for agreeing. Sadiq, this actually enjoyable and interesting. Thank you. That's all the questions we have. Okay, we've gone through every question. We're still good for time in case anyone has additional questions. We have 10 minutes more to go. As we said, the meeting is recorded and we're going to post it on our YouTube channel for those that are interested. If there are no other questions, Sheon, Tawhid, I'm going to... Okay, we've got a question here. I'm going to share the video recording. Yes. I'm in the UK, had my first property, currently doing my house improvement from 3 bed to 5 bed. Wow, well done, Olu. Planning to start property investment, but don't have enough capital. How can I start this? That has been covered earlier. We have some people raising their hands. Please just type into the chat box if you have any questions. Is 100K enough to kickstart BRRR and scale up from there? Yes, 100K is more than enough. Can I know what details are covered in your tier 2 mentorship plans? The details are available on our website. It's guided execution. I'm going to teach you basically how I got to where I am today, based on your own peculiar situation. It's not generic type of teaching. It's specific to you and to your situation. So that's what the mentorship program is. I'm not doing the job for you. You are doing it yourself. Let me have that caveat. But you would have enough tools, enough guidance. I'll be available to you to help you not to make mistakes, to help you not to lose money, and to get you to your destination. Callistus. Benjamin, can we join your mentorship program as a limited company, as not as an individual? The mentorship program is individual. So even if you join as a limited company, it's a one-to-one program. I'm not having 3-5 people on a mentorship program, because that's not a good use of my time. It's specific to one person. So if you want to appoint the director of your company to be the set man to hold the calls with me, or that person wants to bring in questions from your company, then that is fine. But yeah, it's a one-to-one mentorship. Abide Collins, is it wise to start investing in property without being settled here first? Yes, is my answer to that, because what are the risks? What are the risks? I started investing before I got my indefinite leave to remain. I started investing. I bought my first property in 2012, and I got my indefinite leave to remain in 2013. So you can. Nothing stops you. Even if you decide to leave the country, you can. That property can still be your cash flow engine wherever you are. So why not? And you can still have a mortgage from wherever you are. So why not? Stephen, which is the best strategy to start a property investment? BRRR, HMO, buy to let. What are the this is a seminar. The best strategy to start a property investment is the strategy for you, that fits you in particular. So there are a lot of things we go through with this when I'm doing my initial assessment of a mentee. I look at how much time is available to them. I look at how much money is available to them. I look at their aversion to risk, how they assess risk, and all of that. So then I look at their destination. What is their why? What are they trying to get out of property? Some people are doing it for legacy. Some people want to do it to build cash flow. Some people, they don't want to deal with tenant issues. Some people, different people, different strategies. So we now map the right strategy that fits your situation, your destination, your goals for you. But to answer your question, the easiest strategy is the buy-to-let. The vanilla buy-to-let is the easiest. It's the one that has the lowest barrier to enter. I'm not saying no barrier, but lowest barrier. So yeah, BRRR is complicated, HMO is complicated. But you have a lot of, most landlords in the UK they just have 2 properties. They are residential property and 1 investment property. They call them as accidental landlords, because they bought their first property and then they went up a level, so they decided to let the first property out. So they don't really know much about how property works. They just did accidentally. So yeah, that's the answer to your question. What's the duration? Because we have to set a time frame. Our mentorship program is the tier 2 is 6 months. That's the duration, but it's not set in stone or rigid like that. I'm still very much available to support my mentees, but we need to have a time frame. But yeah, that's I would say a bit flexible, but on paper it's 6 months. How long do you have to stay before you can apply for a mortgage? You can apply for a mortgage as long as you have a credit profile. So how long does it take you to have a credit profile? Maybe 6 months. I don't know is the honest answer, but as long as you have built a profile that the lender can assess. They punch in some numbers on the system, put your name, put your date of birth, and they can get your credit profile to assess whether they want to borrow you money. Sorry, they want to lend you money or not. So that's it. It's a period of time, maybe 3 to 6 months. Ibrahim Bello, do you have a mentoring program for how to secure new build as a sole property for residential purpose? Yes, our mentorship is all about property and more. We do a lot of mindset re-engineering in our mentorship as well. So yeah, it covers that, Ibrahim. Do I do joint venture in property? I do, but I have a very, 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 very tight and strict selection criteria. I don't work with everybody. Because with joint ventures, you have to be careful that you have very clear terms. And sometimes things are not so smooth and straightforward. So you want to be sure of the person you're doing it with, but I do. Thank you to Benjamin. Rukayat Adeni, we have about 3 minutes more to round off this call. Okay. Do you advise to start as an individual or limited company? Limited company. Well, I would say again, it depends. If you have another income source, like you have a 9 to 5 and you are the higher tax band, it's always advisable that you use a limited company, because earning money in property pushes you again up another level on the tax band, so you get to pay more taxes if you are an individual. But with a limited company, you're a separate entity. So I would say limited company is preferable. It's more tax efficient. But if you don't have any 9 to 5, it might make sense to do as individual. So it depends on you, Rukayat. Okay. Okay, let's see. Wow, a few more questions here. Let me try to pick 3 because we're rounding up soon. I learned you can't live in a council house and start property investment. How true is this? It is not true. But that's a nuanced answer. Very nuanced. It depends. People live in council houses for different reasons. What you mean is, if you're on benefit and you want to invest in property, you're probably on benefit because you cannot afford some things, and then you want to buy an investment property which shows you can afford it. So there might be a conflict there, but in everything there are ways around. Kuro Udomba, are there channels in property where someone can invest without actively getting involved but still making a profit at the end of the day? Maybe invest. Yes, there is real estate investment trust. You are investing in a fund that is primarily for real estate, investing primarily in property. So you are not doing anything, but you are investing in property in a very passive way. So that's possible. You can also build a system, build a structure. I have a thriving business in the UK, and I'm going to be in Lagos for I don't know how long. So you can, without, if you build structures and systems in place, you can be as passive as possible, but that will hit into your profits. Just to add that caveat. Abide Collins, for someone coming into the mentorship program and is ready to start, what's the minimum capital required to deploy? We've covered that question, Abide. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for joining this webinar. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. We will put the recording on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to that if you're interested. The takeaway, if you want to take anything away from this session, is you need to take action if you want your life to change. If you, however, attend this webinar and then you go back into your normal day-to-day, nothing, absolutely nothing will change. What took me from where I was in that dingy room, where I was thinking about my life, when I was considering, doing property, when I got that inspiration, was years of taking action. So it's very, very important to take action. You cannot continue to do analysis paralysis and learning and learning and learning. What would happen most likely is you find out that you're in your 50s, 60s, and you own nothing. In the UK, you own nothing. You don't own, most people don't even own their cars. To know whether you own it or not, just stop paying for 2 months. Then you see the real owners. So it's very important to build optionality and have options and, be able to hone your life. So on that note, I'm going to be ending this call. Thanks once again for joining. If you're interested in the mentorship, the link has been shared. If you don't want to do the mentorship, but you have questions, you want to do, you have questions about specific questions about property, where to buy, what to do, going into your situation. Should you buy this property? Should you go for a new build? How do you do it? How do you structure it? You can book a consultation call for that. All right. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.